everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Julie Queen. I'm the manager of the AT Museum. So if you haven't had a chance to visit yet, we will be open until 4 today, so make sure you stop up. So today we're excited to welcome Christine Reed.
Hi, I'm excited to be here and talk to you guys. I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story, and then we're going to do like kind of a fun interactive activity, so I hope you're ready for that. And just talk a little bit of trail stuff. So I'm excited that everybody came today. Hopefully it's not going to be too hot. And super grateful to the AT Museum for hosting me. So my story starts over a decade ago now, which like feels insane to say. I, in 2013, was surfing the internet at my job in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was working at a health insurance company, answering phones and doing horrible, boring things. And I found a blog or an article about somebody who had hiked the Appalachian Trail, and it had one of those like clickbaity titles like, man from such and such place hikes 2,000 miles. And I was like, what is that? And I clicked on it and I read about this person hiking the AT. I'd never heard of the AT. And immediately I thought, I'm going to do that. And I got up and I went into my mom's office, who worked in the same building that I did. And I said, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And she said, what is the Appalachian Trail? And having just learned 5 minutes ago myself, I said, it's this trail that goes from Georgia to Maine, and it's 2,000 miles, and you get on and you just walk for 6 months. Isn't that insane? And she said, yes, why would you want to do that? And at that point in my life, I really could not explain why I wanted to do it. It had captured me, something about the way that people talked about it as I was going down the internet rabbit hole, and I found people saying, the AT changed my life, and it showed me what was important, and it helped me reprioritize, and it allowed me to leave my dead-end job and become this other version of myself. And all of that sounded really romantic to me at 23, having just graduated from college, working a job that I hated. I was like, I don't know if the AT is going to solve my problems or help me figure out who I am or any of these other things, but at least I won't be doing this. And so I'm willing to give it a try. And so I spent the next year kind of preparing to hike, not really physically preparing at all, mostly just researching and buying gear, and deciding what I was going to do. And I read a lot of people's stories that said things like, oh, you'll get in shape on the trail, you'll figure it out when you get out there. I had a lot of faith, I think, largely because I was very naive and I didn't know anything about backpacking, and all of these people on the internet were like, anyone can do it, just go. And so I just told my family, anyone can do it, I'm just gonna go. And that's what I did. And I got out on the Appalachian Trail in 2015. 4 days into my hike, my mom died, and I flew home from the trail. And I thought, my hike is over. Like, I'm done. There's no way I can go back out on the trail now. My mom has just died. I have to do things that you do when your mom dies. I don't know what those things are, but I have to do that now. And at my mom's memorial service, one of my uncles, who I had not seen since I was a small child, said to me, so when are you going back out on the AT? And I thought, are you insane? Like, I have to do something now. But then I started to think about it, and I was like, I guess I don't really know what it is that I think I'm supposed to be doing that isn't that. And I realized pretty quickly that my being around the house with my dad, looking like my mom and talking like my mom and acting like my mom, wasn't really helping him at all. And so I decided to get back on the trail. And over the course of the next 70 days, which I spent hiking, I thought a lot about what I was trying to get out of the experience and what I was getting out of the experience, and how those things were wildly different. Because when I decided I wanted to hike the AT, it was very much about finding independence and leaving home and figuring out who I was away from my family and away from this, like, finishing college, getting this job, kind of like these ideas of who I was supposed to be, that didn't really feel like they fit me. And I sort of needed to get away from those things to try to figure out what did feel like it fit for me. And then after my mom passed, I went back out on the trail, and I was dealing with grief, and the healing that I got from the trail was really amazing and profound, and not at all what I was expecting to get out of the experience, but beautiful. And I would not trade that experience for anything. But it changed what I was trying to get. And I think in some ways when I went out on the trail, I had this idea that I was going to become a hiker, that I saw these people talking about the trail and they had done this thing and they had become this like outdoorsy person, which was not at all how I was raised. Like I had never really hiked before the AT. I did not spend time outside. I was a bookworm, and a very indoorsy child. So I think I had this idea when I found out about the AT and I started to envision myself over the course of that year where I was preparing for the trail. I was envisioning this version of myself who had hiked the Appalachian Trail, who was the type of person who did that. And it looked very different in my imagination than like how I had seen myself up until that point. So when I went out on the trail and then my mom died and then I was having this just like completely other experience from the kind of turning into an outdoorsy person that I thought that I was trying to do, I got a little bit lost in like what I had been originally trying to do. And then at a certain point, I decided I wasn't going to finish the trail. I wanted to just hike until it didn't feel like the right thing to do anymore. And so in Parisburg, Virginia, I called my dad because he was sending my resupply boxes and he sounded different than he had on the phone up until that point. And I decided I think it was time for me to go home. And so I'd been gone for 10 weeks. I went back to Arkansas, having hiked 650-ish miles of the trail. Over the course of the next couple of years, I went back to work. I moved to Denver. I sort of went back to a normal, quote unquote, life post-trail, which was a huge adjustment. And I also stopped hiking. I had been a person who never really hiked. I went out and I hiked 650 miles. I said, I'm a hiker now. And then I moved to Denver, which is a place where people do tons of hiking. And then I just really didn't do a whole lot for a couple of years. And I battled a lot with what that meant and who I was and how I identified as a hiker. Because I still would say that, and I still would say, oh yeah, I hiked a big section of the Appalachian Trail. Like, I, did the thing. I'm a backpacker. But then I didn't do any of that for 3 years. And I wouldn't say it felt so much like a failure as it felt a lot like a questioning of like, what does it mean and who am I and what do I get to call myself? And I just wasn't really sure if I was a hiker anymore or what that meant to me. I'm going to read you guys just like a 2-page section of the book where I talk about this. This is my newest book, Blood, Sweat, Tears. It's actually a short story collection, so not a lot of the book is written by me, but there's 2 stories in there by me. I'm going to read you just a little piece of one. This is called How to Become a Rugged Outdoorswoman. And this story took place about 2.5 years after my AT hike. I'm falling behind as Jonah scrambles across angled slick rock. He seems to know where he is going, though I see no obvious indicators of a trail. I'm out of breath. I'm always out of breath. The pressure to keep up is intensified by the sun hanging low in the sky and the knowledge that we haven't brought headlamps or even water bottles. Sweat prickles under my arms, though the night is comfortably cool. Wait for me, I call. My hand reaches out and I make what I hope is a cute girl pouty face. Jonah rolls his eyes but allows me to hold on while we navigate a steeper section of rock. Logically, I know the treads of my trail runners are more than sufficient to grip the gritty sandstone of Sedona's famous red rocks, but it's my feet that I mistrust, not my shoes. Didn't you hike the Appalachian Trail? He asks. Well, not all of it. The qualification still stings only a couple years after my unsuccessful attempt at a thru hike. You're kind of a princess, though, even after that. No, I'm not. My indignance is a front. I am kind of a princess. I'm not the hardcore hiker that I thought I'd be by now. My body is still slow, sweaty, struggling, something to be ashamed of. I'm a rugged outdoorswoman. He laughs. I laugh. We share in the joke at my expense. But the words stick in my head. I've never named the woman I want to become. I know that she is braver than me, stronger than me, more adventurous than I am. She doesn't gasp for air when nobody else is, or wonder if her heart is going to explode on an easy hike. I don't know how or when the words rugged outdoorswoman came to be in my subconscious. Rugged is a word reserved for mountains and men, but I like the sound of it, even if only as a joke. I spend the rest of the evening chasing a shadow. The desert is blanketed in stars on a new moon night, which seems enough light for Jonah to see by. He leaps down from boulders, skipping along as smoothly as walking. I stop at the precipice, but cannot understand the depth of the fall below me. I lower to my butt and dangle my legs over before scooting to the edge and dropping a couple of feet. He's a quarter mile away by now, gone. A moment of panic washes over me. The night air pulses in rhythm with my pounding heart. My eyes swim. The trail is as much a mystery to me as ever, and now I'm on my own. What would a rugged outdoorswoman do in this situation? Probably not stand here spiraling into tears and nothingness because she couldn't keep up. She wouldn't even be in this mess in the first place because she would keep up. I start walking again, focusing my eyes in the darkness, searching for some sign of a trail, some feature that feels familiar, and heading in what I hope is the general direction of where we parked. So this story that I sort of want to tell and want to share is about seeing the person that you want to become and figuring out how to get to that place. And I think early in my hiking world, I read about the AT and I envisioned this version of myself who could do something like that. And I went out there and I tried to do it, and things went a million different directions, as things do. And I didn't accomplish what I set out to do, but I did find some new version of myself. I found that I was more capable than I had known that I was before. And even through that experience and having left the trail, not finishing it, moving to Denver, not continuing to do the things that I wanted to do and be that person, I still had these little glimpses here and there of like where I was trying to get to. And it took me several years. And then in 2018, I went out and I hiked the Wonderland Trail in Washington. And then I decided I was going to be an author and write a book about it. And so it was a really similar journey from deciding I wanted to hike to becoming a backpacker and going through the steps of that to deciding I wanted to write a book and going like, I guess, how do people write books? Let me go figure that out, and I'm going to do those things. You know, since then I've hiked the Colorado Trail and the Ouachita Trail. This year I'm doing several hundred miles on the AT, and I'm probably going to finish it up next year. It's been a 10-year journey, but always with some vision of who I want to be or where I want to get in the future, and kind of like trying to stay working in that direction. One of the things that I hear most often, having done the things that I've done and made it to where I am in my sort of like hiking outdoorsy career from other people, is I've always wanted to do that, right? I give talks like this and people say, I've always wanted to hike the AT, or like I live on the road in my van. People say, I've always wanted to like live on the road and like do the traveling thing. And I hear it all the time about writing books. People say, I've always wanted to write a book. The other thing that I hear all the time is I could never. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and just said, I could never do what you do. And I think that's a really curious thing, because I often ask people, why? Why could you never? Or why have you always wanted to, but you haven't done it? And a lot of times people will offer seemingly reasonable, like objective obstacles which stand in their way. But you would be really amazed at the obstacles that people have overcome to make things happen for themselves. So I think whatever it is that you think is the thing that's standing in your way, it's probably not. It's probably actually the story that you're telling yourself about who you are and what is possible for you and what type of person that you are, rather than whatever the actual thing is that you think is in your way. And I think that's what I've uncovered in those conversations, because especially in the beginning, when I was like, I've never hiked before, I'm just some bozo out here like fumbling around and figuring it out, and people say, oh, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything special. I'm not doing anything that anybody couldn't do. And I started to dig into that over the years because I thought that it was a really interesting thing. So the activity that we're gonna do, each of the tables has a set of little like slips of paper on it and pens, if everybody will grab one of those. And I love this activity because it really applies to everyone, no matter where you are in your journey, right? We have some thru hikers sitting over there, so I'm sure they're not people who are gonna say, oh, I've always wanted to thru hike the AT, but like don't know how to do it, because you're here doing it. You know, and maybe you've overcome some of these things yourself, but I think even if you find that in one aspect of your life, you may find it hard in others. So I want you to like think broadly when I say this, but write down on one side of the piece of paper something that you've always wanted to do that you feel as though you cannot, or something that you would say I could never to, but that you do want to do. And Okay, now I want you to turn to somebody next to you and tell them what it is that you want to do. You say, I want to, or I want to be the type of person who... Okay, has everybody shared with somebody what you want to do? Okay. Now I would like for you all to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and if not, just like look down maybe. And envision the version of yourself who would do that thing. And what do they look like? And how are they different than how you feel now? And what kind of actions do they take on a day-to-day basis? And what kind of like cool clothes are they wearing? And who are their friends? Where do they live? Okay, does everybody have a nice mental image of this other slightly different version of themselves? Okay. Now I want you to tell the person that you told before that you are planning to do the thing that you said you wanted to do. Does your paper just have a happy face on it? That you're gonna be so happy. I hope your envisioned self is smiling, yes. All right, so the reason that I wanted you to tell the person that you're planning to do that thing is because I think that speaking your dream, your vision, your hope, your plans into the world, into some other person's ear, even if it's somebody you barely know or just met, it really does change your mindset about things. And when I found out about the AT, the first thing I did was go into my mom's office and say, I'm doing this. And then I spent the next year telling literally everyone I met, I'm getting ready to hike the AT. And that really, it became a part of who I was, even though I had done literally nothing yet, right? It was a part of my person that I was like, I'm a person who's getting ready to hike the AT. And that is sort of like what I'm about in this moment. And it really shifted my attitude, even though it took me a year to get ready. And I had to save up money, I had to buy gear, I had to do research, I had to work on my parents a little bit. Like there was a lot of things that had to happen, and just kind of like objective obstacles that had to be overcome for me to reach the point of doing that thing. But during that period, that is what I was doing. I was getting ready to do that. So I just want you guys all to take this as an invitation to start to be a person who is going to do the thing that you want to do, and move through the world with that mentality that you are working your way toward that, whatever it is, and however long it might take. Maybe it's something you legitimately can't do for the next 5 years, but become a person who's getting ready to do that. That is what I had to share with you guys today. But I'm happy to answer questions. I guess I also should say, so my first book is a memoir. It's about my hike on the Wonderland Trail, but you get the backstory of my AT hike also. So there's some Appalachian Trail stuff in there. It came out in 2021. My second book, Blood, Sweat, Tears, is a short story collection. It's written by 25 women plus about their experience in a female body on trail. So it's all things like relationship to body and physical being on trail, and it's hiking, trail running, and also there's a mountaineering story in there. So it's got like a good range. I have most of the writers are in the US. I have one Canadian writer and one from Chile. And the stories take place all over the world. So it's really a cool variety. And the AT Museum is carrying Blood, Sweat, Tears in the store, but I also have copies here, and then I have some cool shirts and stickers and things if you guys are interested in any of that.
What's on your bucket list now?
On my bucket list, I would really like to ride a bike across the country, but I'm not a bike. I'm not a bike rider. So. You want to ride across the country together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm worried because I don't know how to ride a bike.
Oh, I know how to ride a bike.
I do know. But like, what if you get a flat tire?
What if I
Then
pull you in
like,
a carrier?
what? You're gonna pull me in a little
you're in one of
baby
those, like,
cart
king
across the country. That sounds great.
What-
That's one of those things that I backpack. I write about backpacking. I've had a bunch of people be like, you should try bike packing. And at first I was like, no, I'm not interested in that at all. But then of course it gets in there, and then you can't get it out. So I'm stewing on it.
When you got off the AT and moved to Colorado, and then when you did the Wonderland Trail, did you do any backpacking in between those two things?
No.
So it was probably like getting back out on the Wonderland Trail was probably, you were probably super like nervous all the time.
Yeah, when I was carrying, I mean, I hadn't put my pack on in 3 years, so it was heavy and I was out of shape. And I got, like, on the first day on the Wonderland Trail, I was like, do I even like backpacking? Did I ever even like backpacking? I don't remember if I do or not. And it was, yeah, it was really hard and I had a lot of doubt. And fortunately, on the Wonderland Trail, it's really steep all the time. And so I hiked 4 miles straight down and that was fine. And then as soon as I went up, I was like, this is horrible and I hate this. And if I hadn't just come down that really steep 4 mile downhill, I'd probably just go back to my car right now. But if I turn around, I have to like also go up a big hill. So luckily I like kept going. And by like the fourth or fifth day, I was like, okay, I remember why I wanted to be out here. But it took a minute. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you see for yourself 5 or 10 years down the road?
So with Blood, Sweat, Tears, I'm actually launching a publishing company. And so I'll be publishing other people's stories going forward. And like personally, I'm going to be hiking and running a ton and just enjoying like as much nature as I can squeeze in between publishing books. But yeah, I'm really excited to be publishing other people's stories and just helping get more outdoor adventure stories out there. Yeah, so last year I hiked the Shenandoah section. This year I started at the top of Shenandoah and went north for about 100 miles. I'm going to get on and do about 100 miles starting this Wednesday in New York, or like New York forward. And then I'm doing the long trail this fall. And then potentially going to pick up the rest of Virginia after that. And then next year I'm planning to come back and finish what's left.
What advice would you have for someone who thinks they can't do a long hike or a thru hike because of physical limitations? Is there?
It really depends on what your physical limitations are and what you can do to manage that. I mean, I certainly think that the AT and the PCT and the CDT get a lot of publicity and like those are considered the long trails. There are lots of other long trails that you can do that aren't as long. And so doing something like the Wonderland Trail, which is quite difficult but much shorter, or like the Ouachita Trail that I did is 200 miles, like the Colorado Trail is 500 miles. There are lots of other trails that are shorter, and I think doing something like that to warm up and see how your body handles it and like how much can your body handle. I have a chronic illness. I didn't know that I had it when I started backpacking, and it caused a lot of problems for me, but I was able to, I couldn't do a lot, but I was able to get out there. But I think a lot of it has to do with learning how to manage your body and how to understand what your body is telling you and like knowing when to rest, knowing when to take time off and like how much you can handle and how to push yourself without pushing yourself over the edge, right? Like it really depends what's going on with your body for sure. But I think that, the chronic illness I have has, it affects the autonomic nervous system. And so it makes my heart pound really fast and it makes it hard to breathe and like things that feel like I'm pushing myself harder than I should be. And a lot of doctors who have patients with POTS and dysautonomia, they don't encourage their patients to exercise because it's really difficult. And so when I got diagnosed, my doctor was like, you run? You're a runner? How do you do that? And I'm like, I've just learned how to suffer. Like, I've just like, it's uncomfortable and it sucks and I do it anyway. And then it gets a slightly easier. But I think having medical professionals who are interested in seeing you do the things that you're interested in doing and helping you to achieve those things can really make a huge difference with mentality. To have doctors who are like, oh, you want to hike, you want to backpack, like let's talk about how you can make that happen. And like if you need to like manage medications or like there's lots of different things people are dealing with on trail.
Did you work out a lot and get a plan before you started your AT hike? Did you plan lift weights or?
No, I didn't do anything. I did nothing. Actually, before I hiked the AT, I moved to Yosemite National Park for 5 months because my lease was going to be up, and I was like, I need to live somewhere before I start the trail. And I Googled jobs that provide housing, and the first thing that popped up was the national park system. And I was like, oh, that's cool, and I'll meet outdoorsy people. So I like went to Yosemite, and it turns out people rock climb there. That's like a big thing. I didn't know about rock climbing at the time, and so I couldn't really find a lot of people to hike with there, and so I actually didn't really hike very much. I did a few hikes, but I did very little physical preparation. And then when I started the AT, I think it was probably 3 weeks before I was doing 10-mile days. Like I hiked 7 miles, 8 miles. I was going really slow in the beginning, and I think the AT is actually pretty nice for that, to get on and not be super fit, because there's one, the trail is shorter than the other 2 long trails mileage wise, so you can do 7-mile days and then like make it up later. But 2, the shelter system, there's just so much camping, there's so much opportunity to like stop shorter in the beginning. So you can really do less miles to start off and kind of like work your way up. Well, I will be here. I have books and shirts and things if anybody wants to look at stuff, and then I'll be here for a little bit if you have any other questions. Awesome. Thank you so much.
On behalf of myself, Larry Luxembourg, and all the volunteers of the Appalachian Trail Museum, thanks for watching.
If you would like to help support the museum, you can become a volunteer,
Hi, welcome to the museum.
donate at the museum or online, or become a member of the AT Museum Society.
For more information, please visit atmuseum.org.